very special people on the show who are going to address every question that viewers have sent to us yesterday and today on FDI in e-commerce. We have Rakesh Biyani of Future Group, which some people say is the biggest beneficiary of these rules. We also have Hari Menon of BigBasket.com, which some people say could face issues going forward because of the new rules. Krishna, I'm going to hand it over to you to really start the AMA with Rakesh Biyani.
All right, Rakesh, let's kick things off. We thought we would have Kunal Shah with us, but he is not there. But the latest set of regulation not only brings greater clarity to the FDI regulations, but would you say, as a traditional retailer, you stand vindicated with these latest set of clarifications?
Well, I think definitely, if you really look at what was the regulation earlier, the regulation earlier said very simply only B2B e-commerce is permitted. And there were ambiguities around that, and what we were seeing is the fact that many people were actually doing B2C commerce in the disguise of B2B. And that process was about influencing prices, etc., using the FDI fund flow, maybe treating it as marketing expenses, launching private brands, which are typically an inventory base, and you are trading into it. So if people were participating in the retail trade when that was strictly prohibited. Now, clearly the government had too many complaints and too many representations that were happening to it, and government found it that it is best that we must bring in a clarification around it. Government respected the fact that there is a significant amount of investment which has happened in these marketplaces. Many of these marketplaces have always claimed that they are just technology service providers and nothing else. And so government accepted everybody's views and has kind of defined two types of marketplaces now. Marketplaces without inventory and marketplaces with inventory. Also defined what will be the governance around that. Marketplaces with inventory have been strictly prohibited, and thus I would say the fact that in general true spirit of the retail business, people who operate private brands, people who operate exclusive brands, etc., are companies which would typically have to have their own inventories, and thus they would have to stop operations in the current form that they are doing business in. And marketplaces without inventory are free to do business, but people who have created special companies which are not linked to them, they have all been restricted to the fact that you should not have your own trading company, one should not do more than 25% trade. So what has happened is very simply government is not willing to allow FDI in retail. That is what is happening.
All right, Rakesh,
government cannot say no to marketplace. That is what it is.
All right, we have a question coming in from a viewer for you. This is a question which says, is this move Kirana friendly? Is it not true that the inventory-led model also is beneficial for small sellers to expand their geographical reach? It's the question coming in from BD Narayankar. If you can answer that question.
If you really look at the policy is allowing marketplaces to exist, policies allowing technology-enabled commerce to exist, and all kinds of vendors, small or large, are free to use these technology platforms to service the needs of customers across the country. So it has got to be beneficial. What was happening in the past, some of this was happening because there was certain kind of subsidization which is happening in terms of discounts and marketing expenses by these technology companies, and that has got restricted. So it is up to the manufacturer or the vendor or the retailer to now decide as to how capable and how well he can price his products and attract customers to shop on these marketplaces.
Let's take it across to Mr. Hari Menon of BigBasket.com to get the online places perspective. Hari, your opening comments, lots of talk about how business models will be rendered illegal with this latest set of clarifications. Your take?
Yeah, I think what the government has done is absolutely fantastic, from really clarifying what FDI and e-commerce is all about now. I think there was a lot of ambiguity in the past, but now it's absolutely clear. And I just want to mention that whatever has been written by Mr. Kishore Biyani, whom we respect a lot as a business person, and commenting on business models is not correct. As far as Big Basket is concerned, we've been compliant, always been compliant. Even post this notification, we continue to be compliant. So there is no such issue and concern. Overall, on the policy, I think it's a very, very good move by the government, because it brings in a lot of clarity more importantly, I think it will create a lot of level playing field in this whole space.
Mr. Biyani, coming to you, a viewer has written about, how cost-efficient companies are not able to pass on the lower cost to consumers. So isn't it unfair both to consumers and businesses? And what is your own take, and, what is the justification behind this scathing attack on Big Basket? I mean, they've been around for a long time. Nobody's had a problem. So why are you suddenly calling them illegal, that they should be shut down, just because they're a competitor?
So it's not about being competitors which is causing it. Can I just look at a scenario that there are retailers, there are marketplaces which are offering private brands. Can you tell me the fact that can a private brand exist on a marketplace kind of a scenario? If private brand by its definition means the fact that it is inventory based, right? So if inventory based businesses are not legal, it has to stop. If you look at that, you are not supposed to participate in in the act of influencing pricing, etc. If you look at the websites today, there is not even a single seller which is disclosed. Everything is actually just one seller. There are not multiple sellers, don't even exist on that market on that particular website. So is it really a marketplace, or is it really just another retail store which is inventory based? You will end up offering discounts across an entire basket. If the basket is typically consists of several sellers, how do you influence as one common discount? So these are factors which have been considered based on what the model has been visible to us today. Considering that fact, the same scenario exists with, we hear constantly from companies like Myntra saying the fact that we have private brands of our own and the private brand shares has become large. Please tell me, how does a private brand business remain in a marketplace model? Isn't private brand exclusive and inventory based for a retailer?
All right, Mr. Biyani, there is another question coming in from a viewer. What exactly is the rationale behind disallowing FDI in the inventory model? That's a question coming in from Nikhil Krishnan. If you can answer that for us.
See, what government believes is the fact that an inventory-based model is a trading retail model. Government is not willing to open FDI and multi-brand retail. The government is not willing to do that. I think the stance of this government has been known while they were not in government also. They continue to have maintained the same stance. Now, if that is the stance that you got to operate, and at the same point of respect these companies which have already established a certain sort of commerce business, and all the while they have claimed that they are just technology service providers, the government has accepted their position and has said the fact that as long as you do not hold inventory, which means you do not participate in the act of retail, but just provide technology platform services and also provide ancillary services like logistics, etc., you are free to continue trading in India. At the same point of time, you should not participate in pricing, influencing it directly or indirectly. Now, what is that done is the fact that it's just to ensure the fact that you are not using your foreign funds to create a market for yourself by giving extraordinary discounts and in the process impacting the business otherwise, because the brick and mortar retail and the general retail is not allowed to bring in FDI today. Now, if that is the stance that the government is continuing, all channels should follow the same stance.
All right, I'm just going to take that to Mr. Hari Menon of BigBasket.com. I'm sure you're hearing what Mr. Rakesh Biyani is saying. What is your take? This whole delivery inventory-based model being disallowed because of these new set of regulations. Because as Mr. Biyani was just saying, you're using foreign funds to do heavy discounting for Indian consumers over here. Is that fair?
Yeah, so we don't fall into that discounting category. I think we need to distinguish people who really use discounting heavily as methods to gain customers versus people who don't. So we don't fall under that category of discounting. So I just want to stay away from this whole discussion on discounting because that doesn't apply to us. That's one. Second is I think I can't explain it right now, but there needs to be clarity between inventory-led models on marketplaces and inventory-led models on non-marketplaces. I think there is the policy is very clear on both these, right? And so I think that understanding needs to be clear, and it's not that inventory-led models are not allowed and to exist. So there is a lot of clarity required. All I want to say is that people who operate must operate as per the law, and you need to comply by the law. And Big Basket has always complied by the law and will continue to comply by the by the spirit of what FDI needs. So there's no issue. We're not part of the discounting game, so it doesn't apply to us.
Right. This is turning out to be an interesting confrontation between Big Basket and Biyani, and I'm glad they're doing it on this platform. They haven't done this before. But Mr. Hari Menon, I have a viewer question coming for you, and this is from Jashid NK. He says, are these norms just about making the unofficial official, and were online marketplaces better off without this clarification? What would you say to that?
No, I didn't really understand the question. I mean, online marketplaces, have existed. It's just that the government has made this very clear in terms of what a marketplace is, right? Big Basket doesn't operate as a marketplace. That's the first thing that I want to say, and hence, I don't think I have enough time to explain, what the model is. So what the government has done right now is really brought in a lot of clarity as far as what marketplaces are, and defined that extremely well, and define what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And in the process, I think they've created, will create a level playing field for everybody. So that's really what the policy has done. And I think and I keep repeating, I think it's a very, very good thing that's happened.
All right, I'm just going to take this discussion back to Mr. Rakesh Biyani. Then this is another query that's coming. All right, Rakesh, I see a smile on your face and you want to come in. Please go ahead. Talk.
So I just wonder, when Mr. Menon says that Big Basket is not a marketplace, and if it's not a marketplace, it's not a B2B business. If it is a B2C business, and if it is funded by FDI, how does Big Basket continue to do business in India as a B2C business, which is kind of a retail business where FDI is prohibited? In fact, prior to this policy, all FDI and B2C businesses is completely prohibited in multi-brand space. Yeah.
Right.
So I think what you need to understand is the fact that there were always regulations in this country. The regulation was very simple, that B2C business was prohibited in e-commerce.
B2C business was prohibited in e-commerce is the word coming in from Rakesh Biyani. Mr. Hari Menon, I'd like you to respond to that.
He's absolutely right. That B2C business, a B2C business, that a company that sells directly to customers can't get any FDI, and he's absolutely right. And everybody who's been doing business here has complied by it. So there's no issue. So that's what I'm saying. I think understanding the model is important. So I think so it's and as I said, there's not enough time to explain what the model is. And what Rakesh is saying is correct. That you can't get FDI in a business that sells directly to customers. In inventory-led model, he's right, and that's not what people are doing.
Rakesh, I'm sure you heard Hari Menon over there. He's agreeing with you. Then what is the way forward from here on? Then
I think. See, what I'm saying is the fact that while he's agreeing with me, at the same point in time he's unable to explain what real model that Big Basket is following. So I think for the timing we'll have to just leave it at that.
Okay.
As and when he shares with us what is the real model that they follow.
All right.
It would be good. That's the only way it can get clarity. Maybe we can go to the next question till then.
All right. One last question from a viewer to wrap this up. All right, Chandra, go ahead.
Yeah, Krishna, I think the bigger question that every viewer has asked about is, are cashbacks going to suffer? Are discounts going to suffer? Will people still shop online if they can just get the same price at a brick and mortar store? I want to take this to both Rakesh Biyani and Hari Menon on the larger casualty, which is the discounts that VCs have subsidized, which PE money, which hedge funds have funded. Is that going to go away?
So if I can take it
Hari,
up and I can say to you the fact
first.
that okay.
So go ahead, Rakesh.
So I think what has been defined now is the fact that explicitly, and the word that the government has just defined it as that directly or indirectly, marketplaces will not influence the pricing. Okay. Now, and it's been specifically said directly and indirectly only because that, in the past also they were never actually putting the word discount on their own. Everything was getting passed on as sort of marketing expenses at the end of the month to the seller. So indirectly, the cost of that discount, the cost was being borne by the marketplaces and in turn kind of influencing the pricing. Government has accepted that and said the fact that, well, the ambiguity has to stop and has clearly defined directly or indirectly you cannot influence the price anymore, which basically means the fact that the hedge fund money, the VC money that has come to run the technology platform cannot go in terms of investing in product pricing, which also means the fact that you cannot use that money for acquiring new set of customers. Further, because the pricing is not also getting influenced anymore by these companies, what the government has also gone ahead and said the fact that it has absolved the marketplace from all kinds of responsibilities related to the transaction. And the government has said the transaction is now only restricted between the buyer and the seller. The marketplace has no role to play in this. That means it doesn't provide guarantees, warranties, etc. If there is any issue related to the transaction, it must be addressed directly to the seller. And for that purpose, the seller's name and details have to be disclosed to the buyer at the time of purchase or at the time of any communication that is happening towards getting the customer to come and shop on the marketplace.
All right.
So I think
Hari,
what is done is the fact that you are bringing tremendous amount of transparency in the entire transaction, and in the process you are addressing the fact that there is so much confusion around this entire new business of e-commerce that the government needs to bring in clarity for all stakeholders.
All right. Mr. Hari Menon, if you can respond to that.
I think the government by stating that pricing will get controlled, I think have done a great thing. I think there'll be absolute level playing field, and you will see going forward that discounting won't become the primary route to actually acquire customers, and it will create a lot of level playing field. I think that's one of the greatest things that's happened in this policy.
Great. So Hari Menon, Mr. Rakesh Biyani, thank you so much for coming on ET Now Startup Central and really confronting each other, thrashing out the issue. I'm sure there's much more to clarify, but great having both of you on the show. Thank you so much, and I hope that our viewers' queries also got addressed in the process.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.